It was an ordinary night at the small restaurant where João worked as a waiter. The pace was moderate, and he went about his routine serving customers with kindness and dedication, as he did every day. Life had never been easy for him, but his love for soccer had always been an escape. Since childhood, he had dreamed of becoming a player, but financial difficulties and a lack of opportunities led him down a different path. Still, his heart raced whenever he saw a ball rolling, and he never stopped admiring those who shone on the field. That night, a special customer walked into the restaurant. João nearly dropped his tray when he realized who had just taken a seat at one of the tables. He blinked a few times, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him. There, sitting casually and smiling, was none other than Ronaldinho Gaúcho, one of the greatest geniuses in the world of soccer. The waiter felt a mix of emotions and nervousness. He had never imagined he would one day be so close to his greatest idol. His legs trembled and his mind raced in 1,000 directions. Should he approach, ask for a photo, talk about how much he admired the star? But João was too humble to invade the privacy of someone so great. He took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and walked to the table with his heart pounding. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" he asked, trying to stay calm. Ronaldinho looked up and smiled warmly. His simplicity and charisma immediately broke the tension. "Good evening, my friend. Of course, what do you recommend?" the star replied casually. João felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say so much, to share how much this moment meant to him, but he held back. He chose to serve his idol with respect and humility, as he would with any other customer. Deep down, just being there, serving someone who had marked his life with unforgettable dribbles and goals, was already a great honor. The young waiter didn't know it, but that night was just beginning. Fate had a twist in store that he would never forget. After all, Ronaldinho Gaúcho's true magic wasn't just on the field, and João was about to discover that in the most exciting way possible. As he took the order, João felt his hands sweating. It was hard to keep his composure in the presence of one of soccer's greatest geniuses. Ronaldinho Gaúcho was right there in front of him, smiling calmly, without a trace of arrogance. The waiter, who had so often watched him shine in packed stadiums and lift trophies, was now serving him personally in a simple restaurant. As he walked away to take the order to the kitchen, João had to take a deep breath. His heart was racing, and he tried to process what was happening. For years he had followed every move, every goal, and every achievement of Ronaldinho. He remembered the nights he spent watching games on TV, marveling at the magical dribbles, dreaming of one day having the chance to play, even just once alongside a star like him. But life had taken a different path, and there he was, wearing a waiter's uniform instead of a player's jersey. Despite the emotion, João decided he wouldn't ask for a photo or talk about his admiration. He knew Ronaldinho deserved a moment of peace, away from the spotlight and the excessive attention of fans. He just wanted to serve him as best as he could and perhaps exchange a few words. When he returned to the table with the food, Ronaldinho noticed the sparkle in the waiter's eyes and decided to strike up a conversation. "Hey, do you like soccer?" he asked, with that relaxed charm that always captivated fans. João smiled shyly, unsure whether to show all his admiration or just respond simply. But the truth was impossible to hide. "Very much. Since I was a kid, I've always admired your game," he confessed, feeling the words spill out almost without thinking. Ronaldinho took a sip of his drink and smiled. He was used to being recognized, but there was something in the way João spoke that caught his attention. It wasn't just a compliment from any fan. There was sincerity, a different sparkle in the humble waiter's eyes, as if he were living a true dream come true. "And did you play?" the star asked, interested in João's story. The waiter hesitated for a moment before answering. What could he say? That he tried but never had the opportunities, that his passion for soccer had always burned within him, but fate had led him down a different path. Without realizing it, Ronaldinho had just opened the door to a conversation that would change that night forever. João was about to share a piece of his life, never imagining that the idol in front of him was willing to do much more than just listen. João took a deep breath before answering. He didn't want to sound dramatic or exaggerate, but the truth was simple. He had always dreamed of being a soccer player. As a child, he ran barefoot on the dirt fields of his neighborhood, improvising goals with old flip-flops and mimicking Ronaldinho's dribbles. He had talent, was praised by friends and amateur coaches, but he never got the right opportunity. Life's hardships, the need to work early, and a lack of resources made his dream feel increasingly distant. I played a bit when I was younger, but I never managed to keep going. Life ended up taking me down other paths, João replied, trying to keep his tone casual, even as he felt a tightness in his chest. Ronaldinho listened attentively without interrupting. His expressive eyes reflected empathy. He had heard many similar stories before. He knew that talent alone wasn't enough to reach the top. It took luck, support, and the right opportunities. And how many brilliant kids never got those chances? But, "Do you still play sometimes?" the star insisted, leaning slightly forward, showing genuine interest. João smiled, a bit embarrassed. "Sometimes, just with friends, in weekend pickup games, but nothing serious. These days my game is here, running between tables," he joked, trying to mask a hint of frustration. Ronaldinho laughed sincerely. He liked seeing humility in people, and João radiated it in every word, every gesture. The young waiter wasn't. Trying to impress him didn't exaggerate his story, nor did he complain. He simply accepted life as it was, even if deep down there was still a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "You know, my friend, soccer is much more than playing professionally," Ronaldinho said thoughtfully. "It teaches you to never give up, to have discipline, to chase what you want. If it didn't work out one way, it might work out another. The important thing is not to let the passion die." João listened to those words carefully. It was one thing to read motivational quotes online, but hearing them from an idol, looking directly into his eyes, was something else entirely. The waiter felt that this wasn't just any encounter. Ronaldinho wasn't just having dinner at his restaurant. He was truly present, willing to listen and share his wisdom. And João, without even realizing it, was about to receive something much greater than simple advice. The conversation flowed naturally, and Ronaldinho, always generous, had more than words to offer. The night held a surprise that João would never forget. João had never imagined he would one day have the chance to talk to Ronaldinho Gaúcho, much less that the star would show so much interest in his story. The exchange of words, which began with a simple service, was now turning into something bigger, a true life lesson. Ronaldinho leaned back in his chair, taking a sip of his drink before continuing. "You know, my friend, a lot of people only see the titles, the beautiful goals, the parties, and the moments of glory. But few know about the struggles I faced to get there." João's eyes widened, hanging on every word. He knew about the idol's victorious journey, but he had never heard firsthand about the difficulties Ronaldinho faced before shining on the world's biggest soccer stages. "When I was a kid, things weren't easy either," Ronaldinho continued. "We didn't have much money, and my brother, who also played, had to give up his dream to help me. It was because of him that I was able to keep going. If it weren't for my family, maybe my story would have been different." The waiter nodded, absorbing every detail. He knew talent wasn't everything. It took support, opportunities, and most importantly, believing it was possible. "But you know what?" Ronaldinho said, resting his elbows on the table and looking directly into João's eyes. "Soccer isn't just for those who play professionally. Soccer is in the streets, in pickup games, in the love we have for the game. If you still feel that inside you, then you've never stopped being a player." João felt a shiver run through his body. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. For years, he believed that because he hadn't pursued a career, soccer had become just a distant memory. But now, hearing those words from someone who had lived and breathed the sport, he realized the passion still burned within him. "Do you still dream about it?" Ronaldinho asked with a curious smile. João hesitated for a moment. He didn't know if it was right to call it a dream when it seemed so out of reach. But deep down, the answer was clear. "I think so," he replied, almost in a whisper. Ronaldinho tapped the table lightly, as if sealing an invisible agreement. "Then here's what you do. Never forget that. Time passes, life changes, but we can never stop believing in what makes our hearts beat faster. João smiled, feeling a mix of gratitude and surprise. This conversation wasn't just a fleeting moment. These were words that would stay with him forever. But Ronaldinho wasn't done yet. He had one more surprise in store, something that would show João that the magic of soccer could still transform his life in ways he never imagined. João was still trying to absorb every word from Ronaldinho Gaúcho. He had never imagined that, beyond serving his greatest idol, he would have such a deep and inspiring conversation. But the star wasn't just there to talk. As he always did, on and off the field, he loved to surprise. After finishing his meal, Ronaldinho grabbed a paper napkin and with his casual handwriting began writing something. João watched from a distance, not quite understanding what he was doing. The star folded the paper carefully and left it next to the plate, along with a few folded bills. When the waiter approached to clear the table, Ronaldinho smiled and said, "Thanks a lot for the great service, my friend. I hope tonight was as special for you as it was for me." João, unsure how to respond, simply nodded, still processing everything. The soccer legend stood up, gave the waiter a final handshake, and left the restaurant with his unmistakable, relaxed stride. Still in shock from everything that had happened, João picked up the napkin and carefully unfolded it. His heart raced as he read the handwritten message. "Never stop dreaming, my friend. The game of life always gives you another chance. Hope to see you soon. With love, Ronaldinho Gaúcho." João's eyes welled up with tears. That simple note carried immense weight for him. But then, as he picked up the bills Ronaldinho had left, he realized it wasn't just an ordinary tip. The amount was far more than he expected. Enough for something special. Before he could fully process what was happening, one of his co-workers approached, eyes wide with disbelief. "Dude, did you see this?" his friend asked, still incredulous. "Ronaldinho left more than just money. Look at this." João looked closer and saw, among the bills, a small card with an address and a date handwritten on it. On the back, a short and direct message. "See you at the game. You're my special guest." A shiver ran down João's spine. He blinked a few times, trying to make sure he wasn't dreaming. Ronaldinho hadn't just acknowledged his passion for soccer, he had invited him to experience something he never thought possible. His heart pounded. What awaited him at this game? Why had Ronaldinho done this? One thing was certain. The night, which already seemed unforgettable, had just become even more magical. And João, who once believed his soccer dreams were buried, now had a new chance, right in front of him. João stood still, holding the napkin and the card with trembling hands. His eyes scanned Ronaldinho's message over and over, as if trying to confirm it was real. His chest swelled with an emotion he couldn't contain. It was as if, suddenly, fate had given him a sign that his soccer story wasn't over yet. His co-workers quickly noticed his stunned expression and gathered around, curious. "João, what's wrong? What did he leave you?" one of the waiters asked, eyeing the bills and the note. Unable to speak at first, João simply handed over the napkin and the card. Within seconds, the other staff members were surrounding him, reading the message and reacting with expressions of surprise and admiration. "Man, this is unbelievable. He invited you to a game," one of them exclaimed, still trying to process the situation. "Ronaldinho personally invited you. My God, this is like something out of a movie," another said excitedly. The excitement spread through the restaurant. Some nearby customers, noticing the commotion, began asking what was going on. Soon, the news had spread. The legendary Ronaldinho Gaúcho had not only been humble and attentive to João, but had also gifted him a moment that could change his life. It was then that João felt tears streaming down his face. He tried to hold them back, but it was impossible. For years, he had buried his dream of becoming a soccer player, resigning himself to the routine of work and life's hardships. But now, a simple gesture from his idol made him see that maybe there was more to his story. "João, you deserve this, man," one of his co-workers said, giving him a friendly pat on the shoulder. "You've always worked so hard. This is a gift from fate." He took a deep breath, trying to process everything. Ronaldinho hadn't just acknowledged him, he had seen something in him, something no one else had noticed in a long time. A dormant dream waiting for the chance to come alive, and that chance was closer than he ever imagined. As he held the small card, his heart raced. The game was in just a few days. He knew he couldn't waste this opportunity. What did Ronaldinho want with this invitation? What did he expect from him? One thing was certain. João wouldn't miss this meeting for anything in the world. He was about to live one of the most unforgettable moments of his life. The following days were filled with anxiety and anticipation for João. He could barely sleep, thinking about what awaited him. He still didn't know exactly what Ronaldinho had planned, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just any invitation. The soccer star had seen something in him, something he hadn't seen in himself for a long time. On the appointed day, João woke up early, put on his best clothes, and took a bus to the address on the card. His heart raced with every kilometer. When he finally arrived, he was speechless. It was a stadium, not a massive professional soccer arena, but a well-structured field with stands, floodlights, and an impeccable pitch. From the activity around, it was clear something big was about to happen. He walked to the entrance and, with some hesitation, showed the card to the security guard. The man checked it, and with a friendly smile, let him through. "Welcome, João. Ronaldinho is already waiting for you inside." Hearing those words sent a shiver down his spine. He took a deep breath and took his first steps toward the field. As he entered, he saw a group of players warming up. Some were former professionals. Others seemed to be special guests. But at the center of it all was him, Ronaldinho Gaúcho, exuding his usual joy, with the ball at his feet and a smile on his face. As soon as he spotted João, the soccer legend spread his arms and shouted, "There's our special guest, everyone." Turned to look at him, and João felt a mix of emotion and shyness. He wasn't famous, just a waiter passionate about soccer who suddenly was there, surrounded by legends of the sport. Ronaldinho approached and gave him a friendly pat on the shoulder. "What's up, my friend? Ready to hit the field?" João's eyes widened, unable to believe what he was hearing. I'm going to play," he asked, his voice almost breaking. Ronaldinho let out a hearty laugh. "Of course, soccer is for those who love the game. Today you're playing with us." João's legs felt like jelly. He hadn't played on a proper field in years, much less alongside legends. But before his nerves could take over, Ronaldinho looked at him with confidence and said, "Relax, my friend. Here, we play for fun, for the love of soccer. Just do what you've always loved to do." João took a deep breath and in that moment realized he was facing something much bigger than a simple game. It was a chance to relive a dream, to feel the joy of being on the field again, to remember who he was before life took him away from the ball. The whistle blew. The game was about to begin. And João, who once saw himself as just a waiter who admired Ronaldinho, was now about to play alongside him. But he still didn't know that this match held a moment that would change his life forever. The whistle blew and the game began. João, still nervous, stepped onto the field with the other players, feeling a mix of excitement and disbelief. He had never imagined that one day he would have the chance to play alongside Ronaldinho Gaúcho, and now there he was, breathing the same air, exchanging passes and feeling the ball at his feet once again. The field felt magical. With every move, João felt lighter, more alive, as if he were returning to something he should never have left behind. Ronaldinho was in his element, playing with the ball, mesmerizing everyone around him with his unique skill. But what impressed João the most was how Ronaldinho treated him throughout the game. He wasn't just a distant, untouchable idol. He was a teammate, someone who genuinely cared about the others. He passed the ball to João whenever he could, encouraging him with smiles and words of support. "Go on, my friend, shoot!" Ronaldinho shouted when he saw João approaching the opponent's penalty area, urging him to take the shot. João, though hesitant, took the chance and suddenly found himself kicking the ball with all the strength he still had. It soared through the air and, to his surprise, sailed into the net, leaving the goalkeeper no chance. The stadium, or rather the improvised field, erupted in cheers, and even Ronaldinho jumped up and hugged him as if they were celebrating a World Cup victory. João couldn't believe it. He, who had only played in weekend pickup games, had just scored a goal alongside Ronaldinho. But more than that, he felt like he was reliving a dream he had never fully let go of. When the game ended, with both teams shaking hands and laughing, Ronaldinho approached João once more with that contagious smile. "You did great, my friend. You've still got a lot of soccer in you. Who knows, maybe you'll return to the game for real one day." João couldn't say anything, just smiled as tears streamed down his face. He didn't know if he was happier about playing alongside his idol or about discovering that his dream was still alive. The most incredible part wasn't just the goal, but the experience of feeling like he was part of the game again. The field, the ball, the smell of the wet grass, it all made him feel like he had somehow found his way back. In the end, Ronaldinho gave him one last hug and handed him something precious, his official jersey. He placed the shirt on João's shoulders and with a sparkle in his eyes said, "Always believe, my friend, soccer is more than a game. It's about never giving up on our dreams, and you've got what it takes." João, holding Ronaldinho's jersey in his hands, felt that his life had changed forever. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew soccer would be part of it in some way. And deep down he knew that this act of generosity from his idol wasn't just an opportunity to play. It was a powerful reminder that it's never too late to chase our dreams. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like so more people can discover stories that change lives.